Welcome to the first webinar that we are organizing in the DEMETER project in order to provide your contributions to our project and enrich the ecosystem we already have in the project. Today we have an amazing program where we will have 3 speakers, but then some colleagues from the consortium will be supporting us in the question and answer session. So first of all, I would like to introduce my colleague Kevin Doolin. He is the Director of Innovation at the Telecommunications Software and Systems Group based in Waterford Institute of Technology. He is the coordinator of the project with an experience of more than 20 years already in academic, governmental and industrial context, and he will provide an overview of the DEMETER project. Then we will have my colleague Miguel Gonçalves. I will introduce him later on when he is going to present. He will provide some information about the open call and about the process and the way you can submit your applications. And then we will have Nenad from DNET, and I will also introduce him later on. And he will be providing us a lot of information about the 5 topics that have been defined in the context of our open call. Like this, you will understand exactly what are the expectations and basically what we really expect from you and from your proposals. Then I think the most important thing for today is that besides receiving a lot of information, that you have the opportunity to interact with the colleagues, and also that you have the opportunity to make all the questions that you may have, all the doubts that you may want to solve. So this is the agenda for today. Just some logistic things. First of all, you may see that you have the opportunity to use 2 options in Zoom, questions and answers, and also you can chat. I would like all of you with questions to post them in the questions and answers option. Like this, we will avoid misunderstandings and potential mistakes, and we will keep all the questions for the last session of today. And then if by chance there are some questions that we don't have time to answer, for sure we will come back to you and we will provide all this information. Before starting with the first presentation, I would also like to remind you that a lot of information has been posted on the website of the DEMETER project, that this session will be recorded. Presentations, I suppose, will be made available. So all this information will be available for you. And there will also be a second webinar that will happen on the 5th of November, if I'm not wrong. So you still have another opportunity to come back to us, to make questions, and maybe to follow up some of the information that will be provided in this webinar today. And without further introduction, because the most important thing is to have our speakers providing this information to you, I would like again to introduce and to welcome Kevin Doolin, the coordinator of the DEMETER project, and he will provide a general overview of the project for all the people that are today in the call. Thanks again for joining this session, and talk to you later on in the questions and answer session. So Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Nuria. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to get my slideshow started. Okay, hope everyone can see that okay. So welcome to our webinar on the DEMETER Open Call. As Nuria said, I'm the coordinator of the project, and I'm based in TSSG in Waterford Institute of Technology. So I just want to give a quick overview of the positioning, first of all, of DEMETER relative to various EU programs, just to contextualize it a little bit for you. DEMETER falls under I suppose, a broad suite of programs looking at digitalization of European industry. And this includes things like digital innovation hubs, partnerships and platforms, regulatory frameworks, and skills and jobs development. DEMETER, it falls very much under the partnerships and platforms element under Horizon 2020. And of course, it'll be under that. Similar under Horizon Europe as we go forward into Horizon Europe. So DEMETER was funded under the Digitizing and Transforming European Industry and Services Platforms and Pilots call. It was a call number DT-ICT 08 2019 Agricultural Digital Integration Platforms. And we've been running for about a year now, so that's why we're now ready to start with our open calls. Just to position it a little bit in more finer detail, under digitization in agriculture and farming, there's kind of 4 main topics. One is around mainstream digital innovations, again, digital innovation hubs, and where you have projects like smart agri-hubs and agro-food. There's another topic around adoption of regulations, looking at things like cybersecurity and so on. Preparation of the workforce is around training and skills development and the working environment, and there's a couple of projects underway under that. But DEMETER then falls under integration platforms and pilots, where we're accompanied by other projects like the Internet of Farm and Food 2020 and our sister project, Atlas. Looking at the EU perspective on this, there's a number of challenges and risks associated with digitalization of rural economies and agriculture. It does bring a lot of opportunities to the EU farming sector and to rural areas, but there are certain limitations which projects like DEMETER are trying to address. Excuse me. For example, there's issues around infrastructure availability, connectivity. Broadband is nearly always a problem. Farmers' awareness about benefits of technology deployments is another quite critical area, and farmer skill development. But also standardization and interoperability of systems, which is something very much a focus of both the DEMETER and Atlas projects, where we look at interoperability at a kind of a data level. Data ownership is another issue. Who gets to own who owns the data coming from the various farms and different actors along the agricultural supply chain, and also there's some limitations around financing of investments as well. And then there's risks to consider as we roll out these new digital technologies, things like the digital divide. It can potentially get worse, that if, let's say, larger scale farmers and stakeholders are able to spend a lot of money deploying, very modern technologies to modernize their farm infrastructures, sometimes smaller players potentially could be left a little bit behind because of that. Data ownership, of course, is a risk as well, because we have to understand who owns the data and how farmers can monetize it if that's what they want to do. It will cause increased concentration within the agri-food supply chain. It can have an uncertain impact on jobs as well, the more we digitalize things. And there's also a potential socioeconomic impact overall as a result. So these are things we need to bear in mind when we're running any projects like DEMETER, and indeed the topics that might come up in our open calls that we're going to discuss today. So this slide here just shows the positioning again of these projects relative to the European Commission's objectives. And they have three broad objectives under their digital transformation for agriculture. One is about uptake of services and technologies. One is about technology development, and then the other is about creating impact. And as you'll see here, DEMETER and again Atlas very much fall under the technology development side of the house, although we are looking at issues around technology uptake as well, but primarily we're focused on technology development. So I'm just going to show you, like, DEMETER essentially in a nutshell. We've got 18 different countries involved in the project, 60 different partners from across Europe, and we're running 20 different pilots. So essentially, while we're digitalizing the agri-food supply chain, we've defined a suite of pilots that are going to be run across Europe to actually verify the results of what we've done. And again, we're hoping that participants in our open call can feed into those pilots and that type of work as well. But within the project itself, we've almost 6,000 farmers on board to participate in our trials, covering around 318,000 hectares of land. We've tens of thousands of sensors and devices included in the project as well. We have a very strong global outreach within the project, and this is actually quite important as well for participants in the open call, because we're very heavily focused on dissemination and communication of the project results, and that will include dissemination and communication around results of the open call projects as well. And quite importantly, the World Farmers Organization is a partner within the project. So, everybody who participates in DEMETER potentially has the capability of reaching out to a global audience via the WFO as well. So it is quite important to bear that in mind. Just very briefly to look at the types of pilots we already have in place in the project. we've organized these into kind of 5 broad categories, as you can see on the slide, and we will make the slides available later. Each of these categories has a slightly different focus. So we have, just for example, water and energy management related to arable crops. So for example, looking at smart energy management on irrigated crops, or things like optimal rice irrigation. We also look at precision farming related to arable crops. So just for example, again, in-service agricultural machinery condition monitoring, or data brokerage and decision support systems. In the fruit and vegetable sector, we focus a lot around crop health and quality. And again, just as an example, looking at things like a decision support system for olive growers. On the livestock side, we have a lot of focus around animal health. We have a dairy farmers dashboard, for example, for the milk and for the meat production chains. And then we have a number of cross-sectoral pilots as well that are looking at, for example, pollination optimization in apiculture, or enabling transparency in the poultry industry supply chain. I'm just going to very briefly touch on, very high level, the architecture, the reference architecture that we have within DEMETER. At the highest level, the DEMETER solution can be viewed as shown on the screen. And at the heart of the system, we have what we call the DEMETER Enabler Hub. This Enabler Hub is where we provide interested developers and stakeholders a means to register their offered capabilities and then resources, and they can act as what we call DEMETER service providers. Then DEMETER consumers can browse our DEMETER Enabler Hub to discover the various capabilities and resources that we have in place that might match their criteria for technologies they want to deploy. The hub itself verifies all the identities and provides the support necessary to enable direct, secure communication channels between the consumers and providers. And then the enabler is made available via the hub. They're either services deployed or developed, by DEMETER or by external stakeholders and third-party providers and so on. We also provide excuse me, a DEMETER dashboard. This is really the sole entry point into their DEMETER ecosystem for developers and other stakeholders. And this in turn makes 2 different interaction spaces available. So we have the stakeholder open collaboration space, as you can see here, and the agricultural interoperability space. And this dashboard makes those 2 spaces available to the human users of DEMETER. And we've actually issued a number of deliverables, by the way, on the DEMETER website that go into these things in obviously a lot more detail than I can give you in this couple of minutes. But this dashboard enables DEMETER end users like farmers, agronomists, cooperatives, service providers to discover what DEMETER-enabled applications are out there. And it offers them user-friendly interfaces to be able to understand the control data that's captured or inferred by DEMETER. They can also perform basic administration tasks over their own DEMETER accounts, get an overview about the usage of their personal data by external stakeholders, and so on. And it's also used, importantly, by the DEMETER stakeholders to be able to provide their feedback regarding the perceived experience and the added value of DEMETER-enabled commodities that they may have used through the Enabler Hub as well. So very, very high-level overview, and I've got a minute over time. That's my contact details if anybody wants to get in touch with me. Thank you for listening, and I will hand back to Nuria.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I think it was a very good overview of the project. It's important for all the participants in the webinar today that you understand a bit the context of the project, because basically we will ask you to provide your technologies and they should fit somehow within all the components that we are already developing in DEMETER. So also, something that is important to mention is that DEMETER will have a transformational effect in the agriculture sector. So for us, it's very important to count on providers and on users of all these technologies, because we have an ambition to go beyond the duration of the project. We really want that everything that we are doing in DEMETER is finally adopted by the sector. So it's very important that people that apply to the open call think about the long-term effects of this project. And then in order to participate in the open call, I think that besides understanding the context and what the project is doing, it's very important that you also understand procedures and what are the guidelines, who is entitled to apply to the open call. And for this, we have today Miguel Gonçalves. He is project manager at FCS, that's difficult to pronounce. And he is putting in touch founders with cascading funds, and for sure, as you can imagine, he is managing the open call in the DEMETER project. So Miguel, the floor is yours. Tell us about who can apply and what are basically the characteristics in order to do so. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Sure, my pleasure. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for your interest in DEMETER open calls. I'm glad you're joining the webinar today. So let me just pass the screen. Okay, so the goal of the open calls, well, you see Kevin explaining the project and all the partners that we have involved, but we want more. We want to engage startups and SME with fantastic technology products that can be implemented within the agro-business sector and could be integrated and make it interoperable within the DEMETER platform, so we can enrich the pool of technology offer that DEMETER have to offer to farmers and other entities. So that's the overall goal. The main characteristics of the open call are the following. So very important, the deadline. So the call is open. You can actually apply now until the 18th of November 2020 at 5 p.m. Central European Time. The activities to be funded are the reshaping of your SME technology in order to make it interoperable and integrated in the DEMETER Hub. But also, if you want to do more than that, if you want to innovate on top of your solution, try to make some development, make it even better. So it's not just integration and interoperability, but you can add a degree of innovation to your solution when you are applying to the DEMETER open call. The duration of activities, we are talking about 6 months of high intensive work, so 6 months for development and integration of your solution into the DEMETER Hub, to the DEMETER platform, which will be divided in sprints of 2 months, and plus 19 months of service maintenance. Basically, we want to ensure that the solution that is integrated will be working until the end of the project. In terms of funding, we are funding up to 30,000 euros per SME. Meaning if you need less to implement your project, you can ask less, but maximum funding will be 30,000 per SME. Lump sum, meaning that it will not be based on employees' timesheets or invoices, but it will be based on the deliverable and the outputs of your work. So deliverables, participation in activities, and actual prototypes or tests that you will be developing depending on the topics you are addressing. And equity-free funding, meaning that the DEMETER will not take any equity from your company, your SME, it's equity-free. Milestones and payments. So payments will be made after each sprint of 2 months based on the evaluation of your output, participation in events, your deliverables, etc. And at the end of each sprint, you will have a meeting with a DEMETER assigned person to assess all your progress. In terms of SMEs to be funded, we are looking at between 8 to 12 SMEs to be selected to this open call. So this is these are the main characteristics. A very important question: who can apply? So I've been talking about SMEs. So the SME term is related to several documents that the European Commission has related to the definition of SME that you should consult on the guidelines for applicants. You have all the details there, but generally speaking, it should be an independent organization with an annual, well, less than 250 employees and an annual turnover less or equal to 50 million euros, or annual balance sheet total less or equal to 43 million euros. And you should be incorporated in one of the member states of the European Union, including their outmost regions, overseas countries and territories linked to the EU member states, You can also be from an H2020 associated country, and then you should check the list on the guidelines for applicants. And on this particular open call, you can also apply if you are on the United Kingdom. Very important, applicants cannot be DEMETER consortium partner or affiliated entities to avoid conflicts of interest. In terms of also eligibility criteria, you should address one of the topics, or one of the 5 topics that are here that will be explained in detail by the next speaker. But if you are addressing any other topic, you will not be eligible. You have to focus on the 5 topics that we have selected to this open call. Again, I mentioned it already, the eligibility criteria, but it's very important. If you send your application after this date, you will not be eligible. And the application process is automatic process, so you will not be able to even submit your proposal after this date and time. How to apply? So we will only accept application via FSuccess. So you should go to fsuccess.com/Demeter H2020/apply. And from there, you should have access to all the information that you need to submit your proposal. Starting with the guidelines for applicants, you have a link there, and you should definitely read that document carefully. Then you should fill all the mandatory fields. So in the FSuccess platform, you have the form with mainly administrative questions. So it should be an hassle-free experience. You should say the name of your proposal, select the topic you are choosing. And on section 3, as you can see, there is the place to upload your proposal. So to describe your project and what you propose to implement, you should use the official proposal template. We will not accept any other type of template or document. You should follow this template because it has the structure that is directly linked to the evaluation criteria and with some text to guide you to fill all the necessary information. So please don't forget to use the official template. And you should attach also the honor declaration and SME declaration, and you should be good to go. In terms of process, so once you submitted your proposal, we will run an eligibility check. For example, to see if you come from the eligible countries or not, etc. If you are addressing the selected topics, that kind of direct eligibility check. Then if you pass that phase, you will be then, your proposal will be evaluated remotely by external and internal evaluators from the DEMETER consortium. The top 5 projects for each topic will be invited for an online interview. And after that phase, we will have a consensus meeting to select the final list of SMEs that will join the program. And after that, we'll have the contract, and we'll start the beautiful part of this, which will be the 3 sprints. So in terms of evaluation criteria, we have 3 main evaluation criteria: excellence and innovation, with a 40% weighting; expertise and excellence of the proposed team, 30%; and project planning and value for money, 30%. And you can see a more detailed explanation of each of these criteria on the guidelines of applicants. In terms of timeline, we are in the open call period that will close on the 18th of November. And then we'll have the evaluation and selection the rest of November and December, the contracting phase in January, and we will start with the 3 sprints from February until the end of July. And those are tentative dates. And that's it for my part now. I will keep the 5 tips for later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I think your presentation was extremely clear. Still, I would like to remind people that you can use the questions and answers option of Zoom in order to pose your questions. I saw that Rodrigo already made a question. I would like him to wait till the next presentation because we will go specifically to the contents of the 5 topics that are open in this call, and you will get more information exactly about your potential solution and if it fits or not with the open call. So I think that maybe you can keep the question, and then if you feel that in the next presentation we don't answer to that, we can come back to your question later on. For the others, I welcome your questions and then post them, and we will go to them in the last session of today. So with this, I would like to welcome the next speaker, who is Nenad Gligorit from DNET. He's project manager at DNET, and he is leading some of the pilots in the DEMETER project. He specifically leads the pilot cluster 5, which addresses supply and demand sides of the supply chain in the agri-food sector. And he has a lot of knowledge and will go through the 5 topics that have been defined in the context of the DEMETER open call. Just to let you know, there will be another open call later on in the project with a different approach, but that will come later. So the important thing now is to focus on basically the topics of this open call. And I think this is a very important presentation together with the aspects that have been pointed out by Miguel on the process. But this will give you basically the context to understand if the solutions that you have already developed fit or not within this open call of DEMETER. So with this introduction, Miguel, Nenad, sorry, the floor is yours. So let's go now to the contents of the open call. And I'm sure that this will be very, very relevant for all the participants in the webinar.
Thank you very much, Nuria, for this kind introduction. Also, I would like to thank you, Kevin, and to Miguel, because they leave me now more time to dig directly into the DEMETER open call topics. They give you enough overview in terms of these specifics, what you need to do in order to submit the open call application. And you also now know more about DEMETER in overall, in order to have enough knowledge to understand what we are asking for you now. So we have 5 topics for this open call. I will go each of the topic, and after the presentation we can go and check your questions regarding the topic you may have. So the first one is regarding the soil workability and humidity monitoring. So what is the challenge here? To be able to enter the field and to do our work, machines need to be on a solid ground. So usually farmer goes and checks if the ground is enough solid to be able to do the work in field. The consequence of this is usually farmers use a vehicle and drives depending on how much the farm is land. Usually this increases the impact of the environment, and also it causes more cost in terms of lose fuel. And in short, in order to be able to successfully do this work, it is necessary to have some service which can directly tell you if the field is solid enough to hold the vehicle, be that the tractor or any other machinery which needs to be on top of the field. So we need to have from your guys a service which can predict the possibility of work in the field. Also, we need to make sure that this enable better planning, better application, and better harvest, which can lead to reduce the cost of the machinery at the end. What is the expected outcome of this topic? We need to increase the precision of soil humidity, so this will improve the uptime for the machinery. Also, this will minimize the soil compaction, improve efficiency of pesticide and nutrition applications. So at the end, we will ask for you in a scope of work to deliver 3 main outcomes in terms of documentation and presentation. In month 2, you will need to deliver the presentation. Then in month 4, we are expecting that feasibility test is being done. And in month 6, proof of concept. So in terms of documentation, I think you can produce deliverables reports and presentation depending of the deliverable type. But this does not restrict you to propose something above these three. So in case that you need more, you can propose more, but you should take into account that description of work is in relation to the budget we are giving to you. For the topic 2, we have interoperable geotag photo application. In order to understand why this is important, we need to know that farmers need to provide certain information to public administration for several reasons. There is CAP, which reads Common Agriculture Policy Fund, requesting many information from the farmers in order to pay their dues. So it's foreseen that by next year, paying agency will be done in regular basis in order to monitor the territory for these agro-environmental performance checks. So from these incentives is clear, as EU member states are going more certainly toward something that we are asking by this call. So they will try to get some data which there is no enabler at this particular moment, and in order to foster this development, we are asking from the topic 2 to develop to provide something which has a really high TRL level. So TRL, most of you probably knows, reads like a technology readiness level, and 7 is something which is already being tested and used by the end users. So for the source code availability, we ask something which is open source, well documented, and standards based on API, based on REST standards. So also for the programming languages, there is no strictly defined. So you can use Android, iOS, or other mobile platforms, Cordova or Xamarin, but at the end, if you convey to the open source, I mean, it will be a more shorter selection for you to select which language you are going to work. And also for the security, it's important for this tool to consider all GDPR related specifics, and as well authentication mechanisms. So if you use some login, or you're taking pictures of a field or something third which is not in a scope of it's not compliant with the GDPR, you need to take this into account. As a start, coverage is to have it in Spain and Ireland, but you can cover more countries except these 2, but these are minimum that you will need to cover. Also, we have a pilots that we can provide for this in order. This is the reason for having Spain and Ireland, in order to test your application. It will be much harder, you know, in scope of this budget of 30K to have also some field tests with third party. So we are expecting that it will be done in scope of the work from the DEMETER and from the open call. What is important to know about this application actually is that it should be multilingual, so not only used for one language. So your infographics and everything you develop as menus should be translatable to other languages as fast as possible, so people familiar with development in different Android and iOS platform knows how this works. So I will not dig into more details. And here, as well as the topic 1, there is minimum deliverable that you will need to showcase and to deliver. So the first one is by M2. You need to provide presentation, also document exposing requirements, UML definition, and also some multi-actor approach sessions, participating in co-creation of these requirements with internal staff from our project. In month 4, we expect that this geotag photo app is in prototype version, and it should be provided together with DEMETER partners. By M6, we expect that deployment of your deployment and your MVP is integrated and tested so that you can be showcased as per our needs for commission in order for the events that we foreseen. What we provide from our side for this topic, well, we are going to make webinars with the winners of the submitted application in order to get familiar with the architecture and also with the farmer management information system framework that we have inside the project. Also, we can do a webinar about the farmer needs and data sharing legal requirements from farmers, which can help you covering some GDPR compliance aspects. So for the software components definition, we can also provide harmonized API description. It's well documented and working with DEMETER, the data model, which will be also explained for the participants funded by the open call. So the main outcome can be summarized as the geotag photo application, which interoperate with the DEMETER fieldbook, farmer management information system interface, and also integrated administration and control system, which is foreseen by this year. So by the geographical coverage, as Miguel said, this is for EU states and EU member states as well. You can check the compliance with the official documents. And application should facilitate decrease in time for delivering these requested information for the public administrations. And the last, we need with the application to increase the content and quality of the data for decisions to support system, but this is something which we can talk about if your proposal gets funded. For the topic 3, we have ISO-bus enabler. What is interesting about this topic and where from this problem comes? In farms and in general in agriculture, there is a lot of different machines, different hardware, speaking with different software. So usually you have like one machine, you have it from one vendor, and there is internal systems or subsystems for one or multiple vendors, unable to speak between each other. The goal of this component that needs to be developed is actually to enable different protocols to standard in the agri-food domain to talk to each other. So by enabling machinery to interoperate with other machines platforms. As ISO is something with big maturity and something which is state of the art. From the participants, we expect that they analyze this ISO bus protocol stack and that they provide appropriate software mapping that will be provided as a adapter to speak between machines and between different systems. So the final outcome should be a software gateway component which implements this protocol. I will show you a little bit more about this protocol stack. Actually, I will just name what comes under this specification. So at the end, the proposed technology should be able to provide the interoperability as said between different hardware, tools, and systems without any deeper knowledge about the ISO bus protocol. So farmer per se should not go into details. It should be really user-friendly, and it should be compatible without any programming to be added on top of different deployments. What are the requirements for these topics? Well, we expect TRL6 or higher. So also for the we expect for the source code to be open source. But also this does not restrict other submissions which are semi-proprietary. We understand if it partially is open source, but we will prefer and select better rank the submissions which are actually fully open source. ISO-BAS-TEC composes of many different sub-standards. You can see mention it under the ISO-BAS-TEC bullet point. So I will not go explaining one by one. Persons which are previously working in scope of this are well familiar. I would just say as much as you use, as better. So if you can cover all, we will better rank your proposal. It can happen that you cover just 4, and if your application overall is better ranked than the other application, it would mean that if you have 4, another have 3, you will be higher range application. But anyway, as I said, it would be better if you can cover all. For the programming languages, I would expect something within .NET or Java, but also I would not strict it, for certain programming language. If it's open source, you probably know in which language is usually can be developed. So .NET Java, or if you can develop it in React or anything other, and if it's compatible with different hardware, it will be fine from our side. Also, there are some data management standard that you need to take into account, but this ISO XML tag is usually something which is related to the previous ISO-BAS-TEC, so it's not something which I should go also into the details. And for the property rights, it should be something around GPL. So when I say something around, it applies similar to my previous statement. So it would be better if it's GPL, but if not, I mean, if you are better scored than other proposal, you'll be funded. So, but do not, take your chances. It's better if you can fulfill all the requirements here. And about the final scenario, I mean, it can be from the proposal sake. If you are a company working in a transport domain or software domain, is better than have something already developed in the farmer's domain in which you are developing the application, so that you showcase some experience and history in the domain before. The main challenges for the main deliverables for this topic are to having the specification requirements in month 2. Also, you need to implement component and to validate it by M4, and the final report you should submit by month 6 of the project, by the final month. Same as for the previous topics, we can provide you resources such as a webinar about the architecture, technical access to our infrastructure, and also we can provide insight evaluation in one pilot during the second stage. Mentoring in terms of direct one-to-one support, offline and online, meaning that you can answer your questions on weekly basis, depends on your development. And the main expected outcome of this topic is to provide something which can actually improve the interoperability between different equipment and systems, and also to improve the communication of efficiency for legacy machinery equipment. Topic 4. Topic 4 is about blockchain-based solutions for agriculture. And most of you are pretty familiar with the blockchain buzz and everything which came with it. But we are sure that there are scenarios in agriculture which highly benefit from the blockchain technology. And in this topic, we need traceability in agriculture domain. Actually, we need component which is high TRL, so markets ready, already tested, and used in different domains. So we are not restricting this to the one mentioned. So for the procurement, tracking, crop and food production, insurance, or anything mentioned. So we will keep it open, and the best application which can ensure the most impact, and something which as outcome which is the most useful in the agriculture domain will be funded. So the main challenge of the existing blockchain-based application is that they are still suffer from traditional challenges like scalability, interoperability, and the lack of easy integration in some third-party systems, which are pharma system in our case. The interoperability and the traceability challenge should be addressed by providing something which is already developed. Does not necessarily mean that it's already been used in the agri-food domain, but it means that you should have something already working, tested, and used in the commercial service. At the end, the component should be implemented together with the DEMETER data model. So we have DEMETER semantic model based on NGSILD. We will also provide you supported documentation around this, so it will be more easier for you to work with something which is documented. And also the goal is to, of this DEMETER AIM data model is to enhance the interoperability of the technology at the end. For the main requirements, we are asking for something which is TRL 6 or higher. Also, you can see here that we are targeting open source blockchain, but also, as said for the previous occasion, it doesn't mean that we cannot also evaluate something other, but we prefer open source. Also, if you're using something related to documentation, so if you're working with documents, we will ask from you to convey to these standards mentioned in the standard bullet. So for PDES, EGDES, and AIDES at the end. For the programming language, Open API are required, and along with the software as well. You can use different development kits in terms of your component provisioning at the end of the cycle of your project. So you need to provide libraries which are open source, at least in 3 different programming languages. So you can choose some of the below, and they are usually most used for making the blockchain technology. Security should be banking grade, which means if you provide us the component or technology working in a scenario where the payment should be issued, it is really important that the security is at really high level issues, while this is used later in some deployments inside of our project or beyond of the project lifetime. For the geographical coverage, this component mainly targets SMEs based in Europe. So if you are in Europe and associated countries, I think as well, you can send your application. For the data management, it is expected that you provide built-in data storage and some queries features, but it is something which is really logical if you work with documents. So you will probably need to have this already developed, or just to adjust your existing blockchain technology to provide such feature. And for the interfaces, this goes aligned with the other projects. So you will need to provide something which is REST-based and with the possibility to deploy it in a private blockchain to avoid scalability issues. But also, if you have something innovative working with public ledger, and you can showcase and exhibit high scalability, I don't think this will be an issue. For the topic 4, we have also decomposed the main deliverables into 3 main months in M2, In month 2, you need to provide requirement definition. In M4, integration test, and in M6, the deployment and evaluation in one of the pilots. But when saying pilots, we mean the pilots that are coming from the DEMETER, so no need from your side to also organize a pilot. For the resources.
Just a moment, sorry to interrupt you. We have 10 minutes for the full webinar, so maybe we need to hurry up a bit. I know it's very difficult to provide so much information in such short time, but.
Sorry, Nuria, I will go faster because these one are actually already been said, so it's more or less clear. I can go directly to topic 5. So the topic 5 is regarding business process management for the different processes inside the farmer scenario. So there is a lack of information between different processes, and when you collect something from sensors from 2 or 3 different systems, you need to provide some coherent and streamlined creation of actions and execution of these processes to enhance the productivity of the overall. And this is really large scope. So if you have some already existing ERP system for farm, or something which is can just interconnect between different systems, you can propose, and we can evaluate your submission. For more details, you can refer to the website because this is taken from there. Also for the minimum deliverables. So I will not go into more details here because we need to answer also your questions. So thank you for your attention. I will give the floor back to Miguel and Nuria.
Thank you very much, Nena. A very comprehensive presentation with a lot of information. Since we don't have a lot of time, I think that now we have a last slide from Miguel. We can go directly to that one, and then we go to the questions. And we have just the minimum amount of time to answer the questions that have been posted. So Miguel, the floor is yours again.
Yes, so really shortly, 5 tips for a successful application. So please read the guidelines for applicants. It's a 30-page document, so you have all the critical information for submit your application. You can also read the frequently asked questions on the open call page on the DEMETER website. So there are questions that we receive a lot, and you can have your questions answered there. We also have an online Q&A on F6S, where some potential applicants have been raising some questions, and we have been answering them, so you can get some more information from that discussion. Please don't forget to use the official proposal template, and you can also consult the complementary documents available on the open call page of the DEMETER website. And just to remember you why you should apply, well, beyond the money and equity-free funding, you will have access to top infrastructure, mentorship and technical support to integrate your solution in the DEMETER platform. You will interact with pilots, as Nenad said and explained. You will join this vibrant ecosystem of partners and all stakeholders, and you will also have a word on shaping the future of agriculture. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Miguel. Maybe you can keep the slide with all the references and links while we cover the questions. I think that's interesting for the audience. In any case, as mentioned in the beginning, this is recorded. It will be available through the website. You will also get access to the presentations, and all this information in any case is already available on the website. Let's try to see if we can clarify some of the questions that we got so far, and then I invite some of the people to make additional questions. I have the impression that based on the presentations we had, many of them have been answered, but still let's go through them. There is one question specifically about the TRL level, and I think that Nenad, in your presentation, you mentioned the TRL level for 5 topics, if I'm not wrong. I understand this is the TRL level that applicants should prove when they start a project. So basically that's the baseline. No, it's not the TRL after the project, but basically before the project starts. No, am I right?
Yeah, this is correct. So because we are asking for something which is already mature enough. So this is for starting TRL, not the end TRL for the technology.
So there is room for innovation, but as you can see, requirements are also very concrete. So yeah, that's why we are asking for TRLs that are quite high. Then there is another question specifically about the support that DEMETER could provide to assess the idea. And here I anticipate an answer. So basically, we are not entitled to give an opinion about if the idea fits well or not, because then we may have some conflicts of interest. We may support some others. But I think that Miguel in his presentation has gone through many of the support that we can support in services we can offer in DEMETER, and what you can get is access to a lot of information about technology, about the architecture, about the current developments in the DEMETER project. Miguel, I don't know if also people have the opportunity to talk to some of our technicians and maybe have bilateral discussions with them, not specifically about their idea, but about technology, so that they can understand a bit better the technical context for the proposals. Is that right?
Yeah, well, all kind of questions can be written on the online Q&A, and we have a team of technical and non-technical people from DEMETER that will answer those questions and will be available to all to see.
So for Fleming Christensen, who posted this question about the presentation support, so basically you will get access to the technical background and some support on some aspects, but we will not evaluate the ideas, let's say like that. It's not a service like what national contact points usually do with the Horizon 2020 proposals. Exactly. I suppose that this also answers the first question we got from Rodrigo in the very beginning. I hope that the presentation was clear enough for you to see if the idea fits well or not. And then there are a couple of questions that are also can be together, more like a question in the how easy it is to pay all this with the amount of money we are given. So for example, there is a very concrete one on the fact that the ISO bus specification costs 2,400 euro. So they ask if DEMETER could provide the specification. So I think this is more for Nenad.
Yeah, for the payments, I'm not fully aware for if this requires a payment or not, but what can be done is you can put it as a part of budget that you are proposing for a project, and we can later, if you're being funded, we can later decide if someone already have it or it can be provided from the project budget. But I think from the previous history that some of these specifications should be wide available online. So just in case that it's not, we can let you back knowing after the webinar about this topic.
And then there is another question more or less in the same direction. Hara Pascual says that she has the feeling that we are posting too many requirements for 25 months and 30,000 euro budget. I suppose that is the reason why we are asking for solutions with quite high TRL. So many of the requirements may already be covered, but maybe Nenad, if you want to clarify that.
Yeah, this is completely true, and also you need to take into account that we have 60 partners and a lot of to connect and to provide the interoperability and showcase and exhibit everything. So this is the reason we are actually filling the holes inside the project, and this is the reason for having such requirements for some of the components.
Mm-hmm. We got a last question now, specifically about topic 5. And
sorry, just cut across you there. Just to clarify on that question from Yara, that they're saying that a budget of, is there an expectation that the project will run 25 months? I don't think so. I mean, our open call projects should be quite short, right? No, it's 6 months actually. I have foreseen these 25 months. Actually, it's 6 months, 30 Ks, and
Marcus, let me just clarify this. This is 6 months exactly, 3 sprints of 2 months, so 6 months. Okay. And then the applicants should ensure that the technology will be running and maintain the service for until the end of the DEMETER project. So that's why the total is 25 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I think that in your slides you had included the duration, but also the deliverables, and there we can see very clearly when things should be submitted. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is clarified, I think.
Yeah, and just to add, I don't expect that the new partners will have any work after the 6 months. I mean, it would be just maybe some kind of intercommunication, and So the realistic number of months you need to spend is 6 months per plus this communication that you need to cover with us. So this all.
And Nenad, I think that the last one is also for you with regards to topic 5. Can we provide some hardware that creates data but requires some farm input, or is this only applicable to an independent data source?
Yeah, so this cannot be answered directly. So this is same as one of the previous questions regarding the topic you are proposing. So there will be different topic proposing for the open call. So we can evaluate it afterwards. So I cannot answer directly this one, but I can just say you can provide something which is slowly hardware based or software based. So depending what you have already inside your company.
I think this was the last question. This and since it is already 12, I would like to close the webinar again, telling you that everything is already available on the website, that the recorded version will be there. There will be another webinar on the 5th of November. You may also find some presentations about the open call in other events where Demeter will be present. Still stay tuned also through our social networks. And now I suppose you understand why this open call is called Develop. We have used the label Develop. I think that after the presentations, this was very clear. I would like to thank all our speakers to provide these comprehensive presentations. I think the context and the characteristics of the open call are very clear now, but still for all the participants that are here, come to the next webinar if there is still something to clarify, maybe when you go through the documents, and don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We are here to help. So we really want to get the best proposals, and we will really support you in this process. So thank you very much to all of you. Have a very good day. And again, thank you very much to our speakers today and to the Demeter project.
Thank you, Nuria.
Thank you.